The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. It was around 2009 or 2010 when I discovered this book. I already had discovered Buddhism and I had no idea how to educate my mind to have a different perspective on life. And it was through this book that I was able to install within myself by meditating on the subjects and also analyzing the book that I was able to become or educate my mind to be more grateful for life, but also to be more happy and enjoy the journey of life. My name is Willie. I hope you all enjoy the videos. I hope you enjoy the podcast. And please, if you have any comments, any suggestions for the channel, please feel free to share them. I hope you enjoy the video. It's about the book, The Dalai Lama, and the book, The Art of Happiness. I hope you all enjoy it. I'll see you all next week.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We all want a bit more joy, right? I mean, who doesn't want to feel a little more content in their everyday life? And we want that without drowning in a sea of complex theories and concepts. So that's precisely what we are diving into today, a book that's had a pretty big impact. The Art of Happiness, a handbook for living.
That's right.
It's a conversation between His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Dr. Howard C. Cutler. And you know what struck me?
What's that?
Right from the beginning, it's Dr. Cutler's perspective that's really interesting. He's a psychiatrist steeped in Western thought.
Yeah.
But he was really blown away by the Dalai Lama's consistent sense of peace and fulfillment.
Yes. And that's what got him thinking, where does that inner happiness come from? Is it something anyone can learn?
Exactly. Like, can anyone apply these principles, regardless of their background, beliefs, anything like that? So that's our mission.
It is.
For this deep dive. We want to take this wisdom, this very practical wisdom, and make it, doable, something you can apply to your own life.
Totally. No esoteric philosophy here.
None at all. Just down-to-earth stuff that you can think about. You can even start doing today. It doesn't matter if you're into spirituality or not.
Not at all. It's really for anyone. I mean, one of the core ideas in The Art of Happiness is that happiness, your happiness, comes from your state of mind more than what's happening around you. We tend to adapt, right?
Oh, yeah, we do.
To new situations, good or bad.
Yeah.
And our emotions, they sort of return to a base level. So this is a huge insight. Your inner world, the way you think and feel, dictates your happiness far more than anything external.
Wow. So that begs the question, can you actually change that baseline? Can you shift it upward?
That's the big question. That's what the Dalai Lama says we can do.
All right, let's get into the practical stuff. How do we actually do this? Well, one of the things the book emphasizes is mind training.
Mind training?
Now, I know that might sound kind of out there.
It does. It does a little.
But it's really about understanding how we relate to our thoughts and feelings, how we react to them.
It is. And the Dalai Lama uses this very down-to-earth analogy. He talks about your mental states like they are different kinds of food.
Oh, interesting.
Some are nutritious, some are downright toxic.
You are what you eat.
Right. And so the first step is to actually recognize which is which.
Oh, that's interesting.
This book right away says those negative emotions like hatred, jealousy, anger, they are harmful, not just to us, but to everyone around us.
Really? It's like, it's that strong.
It is. It's not just about feeling bad. It's detrimental to society. It's almost like a public health issue.
Wow.
But then on the other hand, kindness and compassion, those are beneficial.
So we got to get more of those.
Exactly. We have to understand those positive emotions, cultivate them. Don't just focus on fighting the negative ones all the time.
So it's not just about, labeling emotions, right?
No.
The book talks about cause and effect in our minds.
Yes.
Like certain actions in the physical world lead to certain consequences.
Exactly.
So the Dalai Lama is saying it's the same with our mental states. If you want happiness, you've got to nurture the things that create happiness.
Yeah.
And on the other hand,
dismantle the things that cause suffering.
Wow.
It's interesting. He also offers a definition of what a psychologically healthy person looks like. And it's not about perfection.
No.
It's about someone who is truly compassionate, warm, kind-hearted, consistently nurturing those qualities.
And I guess that naturally leads to fewer of those negative feelings.
Precisely. So let's get practical.
Let's do it.
How do we actually train our minds?
Yeah.
Well, the book talks about mental discipline, but it's not about controlling your thoughts. It's about awareness, recognizing the good stuff, like patience or generosity, and making them stronger. And then those negative thoughts.
Yeah, resentment, envy, all that.
You got to lessen their power. It's like any skill takes effort and practice.
It does. It's like going to the gym for your mind.
Exactly. And what's amazing is that neuroscience actually supports this. Brain plasticity.
Brain plasticity, what's that?
It means our brains can literally change, form new connections based on what we experience and do. Like learning a musical instrument. You practice, you get better, and your brain actually changes.
So that's like proof that we can reshape our brains towards feeling better.
Exactly. By focusing on positive thought patterns, we can literally change our brains for the better.
That's incredible. So beyond mind training, the book talks about ethical discipline.
Ethical discipline.
It might sound a bit formal, but it's really about self-discipline, overcoming those negative tendencies within ourselves.
Yeah, it's about making those conscious choices that lead to good actions. Actions that make us and others happier.
So hold on. If we all want to be happy and avoid suffering, why don't we naturally do those things?
That's a great question. It's like the Dalai Lama saying, sure, we all want happiness. That's innate. But knowing what actions actually lead to happiness, that has to be learned.
So it's not enough to just want it. You have to know how to get it.
Exactly. It's about education, understanding, experience. All of it plays a role. And there's another important point here. The book asks us to question some fundamental assumptions we make about human nature.
Yeah.
Like, are we all inherently selfish? The Dalai Lama says, maybe not. Maybe our core nature is actually compassion.
He does.
He does. He points to babies.
What about babies?
Think about their early behavior. It could be seen as a pure desire to connect, to bring joy to others.
That's true. You don't see babies being like conniving and scheming.
Not really.
At least not usually.
Yeah.
So if we can shift our perspective and see others as fundamentally compassionate rather than a threat, it can actually make us feel better, safer.
Exactly. It changes how we interact, how we see the world around us. It can be a huge boost to our own happiness and security.
I like that. And so that leads to how we spend our time, right? The book has a really simple yet powerful message.
Yeah.
If you can, dedicate your time to serving others.
To helping others.
Exactly. And if you can't do that at a particular moment,
At least avoid causing harm.
it's such a simple idea. It's about living a life of meaning, a life of peace, based on those core values of warmth, kindness, compassion.
Exactly. And building on that idea of connection, the book talks a lot about cultivating compassion.
Compassion, that's a big one.
It is. And the book says we need to see compassion is useful. It's not just some idealistic notion. It's practical.
It is. It's a way of changing how we interact with the world. It makes us less fearful, less defensive, more open.
And more likely to have positive interactions.
Yeah.
Even with people we don't know well.
Yeah. Or even people we might not like very much.
Exactly. And there's a crucial distinction here. The Dalai Lama talks about two types of compassion. One is tied to attachment. That's where we want something in return, affection, control, something like that. But true compassion.
Yeah. What's that like?
It's recognizing that everyone, just like us, wants to be happy, wants to be free from suffering. It's seeing that shared humanity, even in people we might dislike.
It's about understanding that deep down we're all kind of the same.
We are. We all want the same basic things. And that allows us to extend compassion to everyone.
Okay, another really useful tool that the book offers is this idea of shifting our perspective.
Yeah.
Consciously choosing our mental attitude.
Like reframing things.
Yeah, embracing life with all its ups and downs instead of constantly fighting against them.
Because the challenges are inevitable, right?
They are.
And the book has this great anecdote about a student of a Greek philosopher. He spent 3 years paying anyone who insulted him.
He did.
He did. Then he met this wise guy in Athens who was famous for insulting everyone.
Oh, this can't be good.
But when the wise guy insulted him, the student just laughed. He said, I used to pay for that kind of thing.
I love that.
It shows you how powerful our internal perspective is, how it shapes our reactions to everything.
And it's not just about these big philosophical shifts either.
No, it's about the little things too.
The book gives specific techniques for adjusting our perspective every day, like actively trying to find something positive, even in tough situations.
Or with difficult people.
Exactly. And the Dalai Lama is pretty realistic about it. He says if you can't find anything positive, sometimes the best thing to do is just let it go.
Forget about it. Move on.
Just try to forget about it. You know, I was on a plane once, and I was really annoyed with the person next to me. I was building up all this negativity in my head.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
But then I remembered what the book said, so I started focusing on neutral details, the color of their shirt, the book they were reading. And honestly, the irritation started to fade. It was amazing.
That's so powerful. Just changing your focus can have a huge impact on your emotions.
Yeah.
That brings up another big theme of the book, change.
Change? Oh yeah, it's a constant.
It is. And the book says change is a part of everything, even our relationships.
Oh, that's for sure. Relationships are always changing.
Right. Just like we all change from babies to children to adults.
Yeah.
It's natural.
It is. So how do we apply that to relationships?
Well, the book says relationships are like living things. They go through different stages. There's more intimacy sometimes, less intimacy other times. Physical closeness, emotional sharing, intellectual connection, those things fluctuate.
That makes sense.
The book even mentions those phases that Desmond Morris talked about.
Oh yeah, those are classic. Hold me tight, put me down, leave me alone.
Right. It just shows that needing more or less space is normal. It's a natural part of relationships. It doesn't mean things are falling apart. It could just be a phase.
And even if a relationship does end, it doesn't mean it was a failure.
Exactly. The book talks about Margaret. She remarried her ex-husband after they'd both grown and changed. They were able to find a new kind of connection.
Wow.
It's really about accepting that ebb and flow.
the natural rhythm of things.
Precisely. And of course, change often brings suffering.
It does.
The book is very honest about that. Suffering is part of life. But it contrasts the Eastern perspective with the Western one.
How?
Well, in the East, there's more acceptance of suffering. But in the West, we tend to see it as an anomaly, like something went wrong. And we always want to find someone to blame. Resisting that acceptance, it could actually make us feel worse. Like victims. The book says we often make our suffering worse by dwelling on it, replaying it over and over in our minds.
Yeah, we get stuck in those loops.
Exactly. And it also talks about guilt. The Dalai Lama says, yeah, acknowledge when you've done something wrong, feel remorse, learn from it, but don't punish yourself endlessly.
Let it go, learn from it, and move on.
Right. But there's another side of this too. The book talks about finding meaning in suffering. It mentions Viktor Frankl's experiences in concentration camps
Oh, wow.
and how even in those horrific circumstances, having a sense of purpose helped people survive. It gave them resilience.
So our attitude towards suffering really does matter.
It does. It can make a huge difference. And, even physical pain, the book offers a new way of looking at it. It talks about Dr. Paul Brand's work with leprosy patients.
Leprosy patients.
Yeah. He found that when they lost the ability to feel pain, they actually got injured more often.
Why is that?
Because pain is a warning system. It protects us. So when we understand that pain has a purpose, it can actually make it easier to bear.
That's interesting.
And the book makes a key distinction between the actual sensation of pain and the suffering we add on top of it with our thoughts. Fear, anger, loneliness, helplessness, those things amplify pain.
Wow.
So if we can manage those thoughts and emotions, we can actually reduce our suffering.
So much of it is in our heads.
It really is. And one more thing about this whole journey of cultivating happiness. The book is very clear that it's not a quick fix. It takes time.
It does.
It takes effort. It takes determination. So we need to have realistic expectations. Don't set the bar so high that you constantly feel like you're failing.
Yeah. It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. Be patient, be understanding. Remember, personal growth is a gradual process.
So we've talked about all these negative emotions, the anger, the fear, the guilt, but they can feel so much a part of us. How do we actually work with them?
Well, the book says our minds are incredibly flexible. We can learn to see things from different perspectives.
Like what?
There's this Buddhist meditation practice where you have a mental dialogue with different parts of yourself.
How do you talk to yourself?
Yeah, sort of. It's like having your self-centered side talk to your more compassionate side.
Oh, that's fascinating.
It helps you see those negative traits as something separate, something you can observe and work with. And the book emphasizes that positive states of mind are like antidotes to negative ones.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so if you're struggling with anger, you can cultivate patience. Or if you're filled with hatred, you can try to foster compassion. It's about actively replacing those negative tendencies with something better.
So we're not stuck with these emotions. We can change them.
Exactly. And the book says that the root of all these negative emotions is ignorance. Not in a bad way, just a lack of understanding about the true nature of reality.
Yeah.
And the antidote to ignorance.
I'm guessing it's wisdom.
You got it. Developing a deeper insight into how things really are. And that can dissolve the foundation of those negative emotions.
That makes sense. So how about fear and anxiety? We all deal with those.
We do. And the book says it's important to distinguish between real fear based on a genuine threat.
Like if you're walking down a dark alley at night.
Exactly. And the fears that come from our own worries and anxieties, things we project onto the world.
So use your reason, figure out what's real and what's just in your head.
Exactly. And a really powerful way to overcome those fears.
Yeah.
Make sure you're motivated by the right things. Kindness, compassion, respect. That acts like a shield.
A shield.
It protects you from the fear of failure or judgment. You're not so worried about what others think. Your satisfaction comes from your intention, from putting in the effort.
That's powerful. And finally, the book talks about developing healthy self-confidence.
Self-confidence, that's so important.
It is, but it's not about being conceited or arrogant. That just leads to problems. True self-confidence comes from caring about others, wanting to be of service. It's about knowing your worth and using it to make a positive difference.
And the book gives some specific suggestions for building that healthy self-confidence. Like remembering how much we don't know.
Humility.
Exactly. That keeps us grounded. And it also emphasizes the link between honesty and self-confidence.
Oh, so?
When we're honest with ourselves and others, we don't have to be afraid of being found out. That gives us a sense of inner peace.
So we can be more ourselves.
Exactly. And there's even a Tibetan practice where you meditate on your good qualities every day.
Focus on the positive.
Yeah. It helps counter those self-critical thoughts.
That's great. Well, we've covered a lot today. It's clear that The Art of Happiness offers a ton of practical advice. Real things we can all do to live happier lives.
It really does. It shows that we all have the power to transform ourselves.
Absolutely. So we encourage everyone listening to think about what resonated with you. What's one small step you can take today to bring these ideas into your life?
I love that. What's one small, consistent action that could have a big impact on your overall happiness?
That's a great question to ponder. Thank you all for joining us for this deep dive into the art of happiness.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope it's giving you some food for thought and maybe inspired you to start creating a more fulfilling life.
We hope so.
Until next time, take care.
Bye, everyone.